Hello everybody, this is Cheri at djsundry.blogspot.com, and today I have a tutorial for you. I've had a few people ask how I make my ribbon flowers, and most of the time I just send you back to the place where I learned to make them, and I learned to make them from Abby, who's one of my design team sisters over at 3 Girl Jam. And I will post a link to her YouTube channel down below. She has some great tutorials. They're really fun. And she's actually the one that taught me how to do these. But I decided after I've been asked several times to go ahead and just do my own tutorial. Again, all the credit goes to Abby because she's the one that taught me. But they're really simple and I really like to make them. So let me show you what supplies that you'll need to get started. First of all, you'll need a paper punch. Now this one that I have is a 2-inch paper punch. And this is for a little bit larger flower. You can use whatever size you want depending on the size of flower that you're making. Like I said, this makes a pretty good size flower. Now if you want a really big flower, you just need to find something that you have. You know, maybe something like the top of a round bottle, like this embossing paste bottle. If you don't have any punches, just anything round will do. Then you need something for the center of your flower. For the one I'm making today, I'm going to be using buttons, and I have my buttons arranged in by color or style, mostly by color. And these are the brass or any of the metallic ones I have are in this set, so I just pulled one of those. You will need some score tape. Now, I have seen something similar done using, I believe they're called glubbers or glubbers, and you could do that. I like this technique better because I like that solid piece that I put on the bottom. If you were just putting it directly on a card or something, you could probably use just any kind of round shaped glue. But I like to use score tape because I know it will hold up really strongly. I believe I have used my ATG for smaller ones, and it works fine. I just like the fact that I'm pretty sure that these are going to last a long time. This is the button that I've pulled. Now you'll notice that this button, you can probably, I don't know if you can see in the camera or not, but it actually was a shanked button, and it was just a plastic shank, and I just cut that off because I want it to be as flat as possible. If I wanted to, I could go back through and sand it off or something, but I'm not going to. You'll also need glue of some kind. Hot glue works the fastest, and you could probably do this same technique. I'm sure I've seen it on YouTube using hot glue and just use a little bit and do a little bit at a time, but I just like how quickly this goes together. And then you'll need a good cardstock. Now you could use really anything. You could use chipboard if you need a really strong flower. I like cardstock, and I like to try to match it fairly close to my ribbon. If you cover it well so that you don't see it, that's fine, but sometimes it's really easy to have gaps. This one I'm just using white. I'll just be sure and cover it really well. So the first thing I'm going to do is pop myself a circle, just like that. And then I would take my score tape and I just measure off by the top line, because you're basically going to cover this whole piece just like that. You're going to butt each piece up to the one before it until you have filled the whole thing. So I'll go back later and fill this up because I have one all prepped and ready. When you're all done, I usually turn mine upside down and trim it. You don't have to, because the beautiful thing about score tape is because it's clear, you can put it back on itself and just after you remove the paper, just put it back on itself, and it works just fine as well. So I've taken this one. This is my circle that I've already prepped. And if you see that sheen on there, that's actually the score tape because I've already pulled off all of the extra backing, just like this. So it's stuck really good to my cardstock piece. And then I take my ribbon and I start by just putting a little bit in. Now, if I have a ravelly type ribbon, often I will kind of fold it back on itself just to provide that extra little, so it's not raw showing there. And then at that point, you just start pleating and adhering. Now, I can actually do these pretty quickly. And this is a thicker ribbon also than what I'm used to using. Usually when I'm using my 3 Girl Jam ribbon, the seam binding ribbon is thin enough that it really adheres. It actually almost goes through it. So even my pleats on the top are adhered. I just didn't want to use any of that this time. But as you see, I'm just making pleats and going around. And if you get one that's really crooked, you can usually just pull it up as long as you do it fairly quickly. Because you do have a little bit of time to work with these. The more you press it down, the more that it will be adhered. But as you see, as I'm going around, it almost forms like a rosette fill. And I am not particular. I don't care if the pleats are a little bit off from the other pleats. If you were particular, you could be more careful. I actually think it's part of it to have it a little bit messy, shall we say, just because it looks a little bit more real. So now I've come all the way back to the beginning. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pleat, and then I'm going to just go a little bit down. And then I'm going to repeat the process, going down just a little bit. Now, as far as using the centers, I just keep going around till I get into the center, just like I'm doing here. And as I go around, each time that I come around, as you see, less and less is showing in the center. And that is perfectly what I want it to do. And then as I get to the center, I have to make sure, you would rather have more pleats than not enough. If you're really conscientious about saving ribbon, you know, you could stop as soon as you had, like say right here, if my button, that's not big enough for my button, so I know I have to keep going. But if you wanted to stop as soon as your button, you had room for your button or your bling, I've used pearls, I've used like sticky pearls, I've used crystals from just like Want to Scrap or something, I've used buttons, I've used flare, like from 3 Girl Jam, flare makes a great center. But anytime that you're ready to stop, you can go ahead and stop. Now I could stop right here, and I probably will. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this kind of at an angle, just for fraying purpose. Then I'm going to fold it back on itself and kind of put it down in the middle. Now as you see, the reason I do that is just to kind of anchor it. But as you see, there's still white showing, but there's not enough, there's no way that button would stick. And that's okay, because that's where you want to use your glue. I just would prefer to have good coverage than to worry about my button sticking. So today, just because this is what I have out and handy, I'm going to pull out my Scotch Quick Glue, Quick Dry, and I don't really want it to go, I know it dries clear, but I want to be careful because I want it to not make a mess on my ribbon. I found though that I like sticky back bling as long as it's strong enough sticky back that it will really hold, but usually I find that using some extra adhesive is really to my advantage. Another thing that I found works really well to hold that down, sometimes depending on how big your button is and how thick, this one's going to be a little bit more difficult because this is pretty stiff ribbon. This is from Really Reasonable Ribbon and it's beautiful, but it's pretty stiff. And so I may need to go back in with some hot glue when it's all dry. I'm hoping I won't, because the key is you don't want your button to come out or your center to come out of your flower when it's being milled or however on your project. You want to be sure it's solid enough to wear up. Again, that's why I really like using this score tape, because I feel like it's strong enough that my ribbon's not going to come off of its base without some work. And so when we're all done, here we have our base right there. Like I said, I could go back with some hot glue, and I may, or I may just add some extra adhesive because I don't think that Scotch Quick Dry is going to hold that button, but I'll give it time to dry to see. So there I have my completed flower. Now how do I attach it to a project? This is actually pretty simple, because on the back now I have a nice solid base of cardstock, and so I can just put my adhesive onto the base and then attach it to my project. So this was, as you see, it just took a couple minutes, a few minutes to make this flower. You know, maybe glossy accents will hold that better. I'll go back in with some glossy accents. But as you see, it just took a few minutes to make that flower. If you know, were sitting and watching TV, you could probably whip out a whole bunch of these flowers and have a nice little stash of flowers and just an hour or two, you could get a lot of flowers made. So I hope this is helpful to those of you who requested tutorials. Again, I'm going to put a link to Scrap and Abby's YouTube channel, not necessarily to her flower tutorial, but to her channel, because she is so talented and she has some great videos up. And so I would encourage you to go over there and watch her and learn from her. It's just as I did. So thanks so much for stopping by today, and remember, take some time to enjoy the little things. Have a great day. Bye.